Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Brother Brothers, the ultimate unofficial podcast. I'm your live feed obsessed host, Fox Van Allen, and joining me this week, as is the case each and every week through the Big Brother 22 All-Star season, he's nobody's beta. Join me in welcoming Mr. Lance Cartelli. Hello, Lance.
Hey, Fox. I'm glad you realized that I'm the alpha here.
That's right. In a long line of Big Brother alphas, you are like Cody from Big Brother 19. You're like Monty from Big Brother Over the Top, and you're like Memphis from Big Brother 22. Great company to keep, right, Lance?
Oh yeah, thanks. That was just the nicest thing you've ever said.
Yeah. So we've got it was a rough week in the Big Brother house, but what hasn't been a rough week this particular
They're all
season?
rough.
They've all been rough weeks.
Welcome to 2020.
It has been a tough watch, but we're making it through, and we're here till the end, and we are hyped about that. I am hyped about that triple eviction that we got coming up.
That's gonna be nuts.
We're gonna for sure talk about that a little bit today, but we've got so much more to talk about. We're gonna talk about Nicole, Danny, Devon, Kevin, or David. We're gonna figure out which of those five has the worst game, because they're all like neck and neck as to effing this thing up.
It's the worst off.
We're going to talk about the latest wall yelling disaster. Yet again, fans are trying to, you're not helping. You're not, stop it, fans, you're not helping. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about Julie's live TV weirdness. She just can't, she can't handle it. And we're going to spoil everything about this week's nominations and the HOH. But first, let's talk a little bit about Devon here, because it is Devon's week. She goes home, or goes to jury, pardon me, juror number 2 by a vote of 5-2. Interesting that there were 2 votes there. I guess Nicole and Danny trying to do some damage a little bit too late with those 2 votes. I think that's a little bit too late.
I think you're right, especially after the revelation when Day left and the goodbye message with Nicole. I don't think that's gonna help.
Yeah. So let's talk about that goodbye message for a little bit, because I thought that was interesting. And the reason why I thought it was interesting is because I talked about a little bit in the intro about that wall yeller, and apparently someone decided to yell over the wall that Nicole flipped. And when they yell over the wall, they hear it, and then it ruins things for everybody. So Devon knew about it before Nicole said it. So, but she gave us a little bit of good, she's an acting coach, so she's good at that.
It was good acting.
She gave us a little bit in that moment, where that leg move, I love that move. But yeah, this is far too little too late. Am I right here? Like this is a lie that just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. And what do you think, man?
Yeah, you nailed it. It just snowballed, and you have to have some awareness at that point when you're Nicole that you need to tell her this. You need to be honest, because she even said that this goes beyond the game, and it's more than like a Christmas saying this is personal versus game stuff. That was personal, and that is a big thing that she did. And she even knew it too. Like her little pep talk to herself was so awkward. It was so weird, and you could see the fear in her eyes.
Yeah. And
for her to wait for the goodbye message is just a total cop out.
Yeah, I don't want this to sound as harsh as it's probably going to sound, but Nicole is a coward when it comes to facing up to the consequences of her votes. If you look at in Big Brother 18, like we've seen the clip a couple times this season where she votes out Devon, and then like she slinks out of the diary room like she did something wrong. And it's like same thing here. It's like she, rather than stab her in the front this time, it was in the back, but it's still a stab. And this has got it from someone, Devon, on day 1 saying, pick a bed, go to sleep, to Nicole, that she's not going to trust her this season. And then in this particular week, it comes down to Devon is so sure that she can trust Nicole. She is so sure. And you hate to see that. You hate to see it, because she's going to feel bad about that just on its own, based on like their history together. But to have it like combine with this message that Devon's trying to bring into the house, where she obviously this is something like she wants to win $500,000 for sure, but she also wants to use it as a platform to talk about Black Lives Matter and social justice, and making sure that the people who are watching Big Brother and play after her see that there is like a strong role model for them. Like there is somebody that they can see as a potential winner. And I think all that's great, but then when Nicole casts this vote and then Devon spends all week, we saw some of it on the show, but on the live feeds, it was 10 times worse.
Yeah,
there
she
was
was just
so much
antagonizing
animosity.
him, and it was really hard to watch, especially when you know the truth. That's really
Yeah.
the tough part. And it just goes back to Nicole. Just, you need to be honest, even though if that blows up your game and everything. Like, you did this, you played victim with Ian, and now you're doing this. Like, your true colors come out. Especially, we see them walk in together, and like, Davon is the reason she won all that money. Like, these are things, and then you can't just be like in your goodbye message, I hope we can move past this and be friends because I love you. You don't, though. Like, she's just somebody who shows you who her colors are, you know?
Yeah, it is a. I don't know if that's a wedding invite that's going to come through. Even though Devon has the money, she did get that $5,000.
Right.
That's good. But yeah, this is. I don't know if they're going to be friends outside the house. I mean, it was tough going, like when they showed up, and then now for this. Yeah, it caused so much damage to Nicole's game, and I want to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but. I mean, it's just Nicole has been playing so terribly over the last few weeks. Throw Danny in there too, because they're kind of a pair. But that's just no good. But I want to ask you before we move on here, because I want to talk a little bit more about Devon. What did you think about her goodbye speech? Basically, her final address to the house guests, where she went on for like 2 minutes, like a real long speech there.
I mean, that's got to be like the greatest eviction speech ever, right? Like, I don't even think there's like a doubt and stuff. But the one thing I thought, I mean, obviously a great speech, just well said. And for her to remember all that, even if she had some slip ups on live TV, like, I can't even memorize like a sentence. So for her to do that, that's really impressive. But there's the acting coach in her. But it was a great speech with a great message. And one, Kevin, how do you follow that? Like, there's absolutely no way to follow that. And two, if you're Julie Chen and you're the producers, there's no way. She could have gone on for 10 minutes. You don't interrupt her either. Nope. So she just had free reign to do whatever she wants. And like I said, it was just a great speech. And, we're going to miss her. She was pretty much the light of this season.
Yeah, for sure we are going to miss her. Devon takes up so much time that when it's Kevin's turn, Julie says, Kevin, keep it brief.
Yeah, and
no, even Kevin.
And Kevin's message was really good too. But like I said, how do you follow that and stuff? And I thought he went the right route, especially because he knew he was staying.
Yeah, interesting salute here from Devon. She name dropped a couple names. Obviously, Tamar Braxton, the unanimous winner, Celebrity Big Brother 2. Danielle Reyes, who was in the final 2 of Big Brother 3. A lot of people think she was cheated out of the win because they did not sequester the jury back then. And also Cassandra Walton of Big Brother 1, the first ever house guest to enter the house. She died last year, and it was a nice little salute there. Even if Julie Chen could not remember her name and incorrectly corrected herself to throw in like an R in there. Like
that's tough. You're trying to, add into the moment, and she kind of screws it up. As a broadcaster, you got to know what you're going to say.
Well, she was a little bit distracted by her love of God. I think that was a very intense moment.
She loves God and she loves Charlie.
She does. Some of the house guests were trying to figure out who the heck that was. Is that her husband?
Is it Les? Oh no.
We haven't talked about that guy in a couple years. We don't talk about him anymore.
Yeah. Shocker. That's probably not going to make the show.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun of live TV, is that you can't take any of it out, regardless of how weird or inappropriate it is. Yeah. So that's Big Brother. Okay. So now that we've talked a little bit about Devon, I want to talk a little bit more about Nicole and Danny, because obviously this is a huge week for them as well. And I want to run this by, because we were talking a little bit, you and me, earlier this week about who's playing the worst game. And I mean, Devon has the worst week possible. Like every read of hers this week is wrong. But to be fair, I don't know why she should have believed anything else, because it made absolutely no sense for Nicole to do what she did, which is get rid of Ian and just go along with her alliance, right? So here I came up with like I got like a list of like 10 reasons why this is terrible, right? So if Nicole had just like forget this week, just last week with Ian, had she kept Ian and gotten rid of Tyler, first of all, Tyler's not a factor this week in the veto. So presumably Devon doesn't go home. So she protects that one number. Ian doesn't go home, obviously. She protects the second number. We don't know where things are going to go quite yet this week, but she could lose a third number this week. That's a potential. She surely lost 3 jury votes with this whole lie. Devon's gone for sure. You got to imagine Kevin and David aren't going to be happy with it either. It guarantees that Nicole and Danny can never work with David. Like it just poisons that. And David's not going anywhere. Like no one's who wants to get rid of David except for Memphis. And even he didn't get it done. And then Danny had the means to defend herself. If she made a big move and got out Tyler, she could have used the replay. She could have played again. Like she had the tools to actually make a big move here and she was terrified to do it. And if she makes that move, if they both flip at that moment, you set up a 6-on-4 where you've got like Cody, Memphis, Enzo, and Christmas. And Nicole actually has a relationship with Christmas. So they could maybe get her to flip and make it 7-3. Like, but now Nicole's seeing all her friends go out and she's like desperate. She's like stuck with Cody now. And she's got Danny. And Danny's in a lot of people's crosshairs now. Like Danny's not going to last till the end of the game. And she's just drawn dead for the rest of it. Like, I don't know how Nicole can win this thing anymore.
I mean, well said. I can't really add anything else to that other than what were they thinking? Like they are in this alliance. And this is coming. Like, okay, we're going to knock this person off. All right, this might have to happen. You go through so many scenarios, you're not doing anything else. So they had to have seen this. They're supposedly all-stars and very good at this game. They had to have seen this coming or something similar to this, and they still go with the dumb move and screws them over. Like that's what's crazy. But it is just a calamity of errors for a lot of people. Yeah,
just compare their game just to what happened this week with Cody and what happened this week with Tyler. Both Cody and Tyler made decisions that like it doesn't benefit their game to do anything but like they want to keep people in this game who are loyal to them. And Cody's gotten his way for the last 2 weeks. Like had Danny could have sent Tyler home any number of ways. Like it didn't have to be an Ian vote. Like he could have just put Tyler and Enzo against each other. That would have been fine too. But it makes no sense there. Like Tyler at least understands that like if you have power, you got to make a move that benefits your game. And Nicole and Danny are making moves that benefit Cody's game and other people's game, and it doesn't help them at all.
Yeah, other than like some pretty big hiccups on Tyler's part that he was able to get out of, he's playing a smart game at least for the most part. And yeah, him kind of just talking Memphis through like, hey, this is why you want to keep David around. It made way too much sense too. It's like, it makes you wonder like how bad is Memphis at this game? Speaking of just worse, how bad these people are and stuff. It's like the only person you can beat in the jury is David and you want to get rid of him. And like getting rid of Davon was the right move. Like she is going after people. She's the only one with her head somewhat in the game. And she is determined. Like Kevin is off in his own world. David can't beat anybody. That's the people you want to keep around.
Yeah.
So it's so bad.
Yeah, it was a great move basically to get rid of Devon for everybody but Nicole and Kevin as well, but Nicole and Danny. Yeah, they're the ones who lose out here.
Yeah. But this is also what we said, a month ago. We're like, they have the numbers. Like, you don't have to go along with this huge alliance. You can break off, and there is a group of people just are like begging to come together, and they needed a leader, and no one really could lead them, and that was the problem.
Yeah, if we've been waiting for so long for this to just get to the second phase of the game, for there to be that first power shift, for like the cards to reshuffle. And it's just not happening the way we want it to happen, because it's a Cold War basically. It's one side, like the Cody side, the side of Enzo and Memphis, the guys side of that majority alliance are just 1, 2, 3. They're getting people out for the next phase of the game before that next phase of the game even starts. So will there even be a war? Like, there may be just one side left, and it's just the guys. Like,
no, I think
without the girls even shooting back at them.
It's going to be a war, but it's not going to be between the guys and the girls. It's going to be the 4 when they end up splitting. That's the war. And that's a boring war. That's, I don't even know if you can call it, I guess it's a battle.
It's a battle for the final 4 veto. Is that what it just,
like that,
it's everything
this
comes
whole
down to one
season's
comp.
coming down to one comp really, and then like that final 3 and everything. But I mean, that's really what it's coming down to, because everyone is just so bad at this. And it's just like they were just finally realized that there was a 6-person alliance running the house,
Yeah. It's a lot. It's not a lot of great games there in the house. You gotta. I keep bringing up Cody. Cody is playing a good game. Tyler is playing an okay game, I think.
Yeah.
But Tyler,
I think the hiccups are just really bad. They're like really big.
Yeah.
That makes Tyler's game worse. But I think the beginning was good, and now he's coming back in. And then I think Enzo's playing really well too.
Oh, sure. Enzo's got some new alliances going on now. He is part of the Wise Guys. We were talking about that last week.
Yeah.
I love the moment where they pitch it to Christmas and then she reminds them that she is not a guy. She goes into it anyway.
Wise people. But one thing that just like dawned on me is Enzo is Cassandra. Like winning, he's anybody but me. I don't care. He'll like throw anybody under the bus. Yeah. He'll do whatever and he'll say whatever, and it's really similar. And I mean Enzo's fun. So, and this house desperately needs some kind of fun.
Don't sleep on the meow, even if he is trying to move past that.
Yeah, don't call him that.
Given that Zingbot has brought some things to light. All right, so we got a lot more to talk about here, Lance. I want to talk about that veto competition and the Zingbot zings. We didn't even. I want to see if there are any good ones here, and maybe come up with some better ones if we can. And let's talk more about that veto competition right after this. All right, Lance, we are back, and as promised, I want to talk a little bit about our veto competition. So there's some interesting stuff that happens a little bit before the veto competition. Obviously the plan for Memphis here is to backdoor David, because Memphis is playing checkers and he wants to get rid of David because he just doesn't like David. We've talked about it before. He just doesn't like David. So that's
a guy who feels like he hasn't done anything in this house other than like think about the game and his like end game. Yeah. Such a dumb move to try to do that.
Yeah, he also doesn't like, Memphis also doesn't like talking to other people about his plans, so that when he nominates people, everybody in his alliance is completely blindsided. That's just that alpha mentality there. You do what you want and don't tell anybody about it.
It's so funny to do that, then get mad when your plan doesn't work. It's like, you should have told him that. And then, people don't want to go with the plan. I like Tyler playing dumb after winning the veto. It's like, oh, I didn't know that's what you wanted. I mean, that's what you had to do there.
That was his Big Brother 20 strategy. Play dumb. He's good at it, but he's a smart guy. Don't sleep on Tyler. He's there to win, as he shows you in the veto competition. But before we get to the veto competition, we have the veto comp draw. Memphis's plan, backdoor David, and we get 2 house guest choices. And the 2 house guest choice chips that come up are, interestingly enough, Devon and Kevin. The one person that they both could trust to do something to save them, David, not even in the conversation. Devon goes with Nicole, Kevin goes with Danny, and little do they know, this does all sorts of damage to Nicole and Danny's game. It's a result of the lie, but it makes them look so much worse.
Yeah, it was so bad. Like, this is where it goes into like everyone's playing a bad game pretty much. And if you're just playing like a mediocre game, you're sailing through. It's like, even if you are mad, even if all these things are happening, you don't trust them, like look at the optics. And you have to think that that's, and especially because they kind of did have something working, like something percolating and everything too. It's just, what are they thinking? Like, you are sitting around all day thinking about this stuff. I mean,
well, it all goes back to last week when Danny's saying like, you can't just take a swing at Tyler and miss. You gotta nail it. And this entire grouping of alliance with like Devon and everyone, that's the swing. Like, that's putting together everything and then doing nothing with it. So it just makes it look like these people are together, even if they're not doing anything, and it just wreaks havoc on their game.
It's just everyone's playing a scared game, and that's modern Big Brother now, but it's tough. Like, you have to have risks. Like, if you want to win, you have to have risks.
Yeah. Kudos to Tyler, by the way, for figuring this out, like getting really suspicious and then actually turning Memphis around eventually. Memphis wants everyone to throw the veto. No one throws the veto, which is great. It's pretty telling about Memphis's game, I think. That whatever he wants to do, though he's running the alliance, he thinks he's getting nothing done.
It's like the first time somebody's actually gone against the HOH this entire freaking season.
Yeah, and you'd think there would be some kind of repercussions for doing it against Memphis, but nope, not really.
No, you just get like yelled at a little bit, and Tyler just plays dumb and nods, and that's it.
Yeah, he's just so awful. Memphis is so awful. Like when he was talking with David, and like, you want a seat at the table? Well, here you go. It's like, F you, guy. Like, just F you. Like,
it's really funny seeing the people who have a little bit of power and they just talk down. Like Christmas's conversation with David, it's just, you're just talking down to him like all the time. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah. So we got Zingbot. This is a Zingbot zing. Tiger Zing, I guess, is cute, right? Tiger King, Tiger Zing. But I don't know, Lance. I felt like this year's Zingbot zings were a little bit disappointing. Like usually there's like one that just like knocks it out of the park. I don't know. I felt like I wanted more.
It's just Zingbot stopped being. I mean, Zingbot was never really that funny.
True.
It just got like very like brutal, like very mean. It wasn't jokes. It was just dragging people. He had a couple okay ones that weren't terrible, but I want to talk more about the lettuce on top of the Zingbot. That hair, like what was going on there? That was quite the toupee it had and everything.
Very exotic, right?
I guess of the zings, I thought the David zing was pretty good. The Memphis one was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The Danny one was just mean, like calling her old looking. Like that's not even funny.
Yeah, that's like the thing is like none of like I got like a list like Kevin's boring. All right, Cody's dumb. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the lowest hanging fruit kind of stuff. Yeah. But honestly, they should have had Day write the jokes, because when she said that Christmas's ass should be named Halloween, I was dying. So that was the funniest zing of all of them.
Yeah. I guess the zing that struck or hurt the most was the one that came after Nicole. Nicole didn't like that she was whiny. She gave us a monotone voice in the diary room. Didn't hate it. I gotta say, didn't hate it.
Yeah. Same here.
But
and then you have like Christmas kind of getting the psycho edit where it's like, oh, I'm gonna get all of you now for somebody else's joke.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I like there's a lot of intense moments from Christmas this week, and I did like that Tyler is like, oh yeah. So Zingbot zings were not that fantastic this year. But I did on Twitter, David, the person running David's Twitter account, that is, put out some interesting zings of his own here. And if you'll give me a moment, I'm gonna read some of these, because these are better than the ones that like Zingbot zings are like these are good. Obviously they do call out that David is not an all-star in the Twitter account a little bit, which is a little bit of self-awareness there. But what do we have here? We've got Memphis. We're pretty sure that casting messed up and accidentally put you on this season instead of Big Brother 21. I thought that was very very cute. That seemed very appropriate. Yeah. And then we got Tyler. Week by week, you inspire thousands of viewers with your unexpected gameplay. From self-eviction attempts to product endorsements on live TV, we can't wait for the 50% off jewelry sale announcement during the final 2 jury questioning. So
a little long, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more snappy, but yeah.
I mean, you workshop that one, you get that down to like 2 sentences. That thing probably kills.
Yeah, it's better than Kevin's boring though.
Yeah.
You know, it's also Kevin's also cries. You could make fun of that too. That's just as not funny. So you can all sorts of stuff to hit him over. But the competition itself was, I mean, it's whatever. It's a maze. It's hard to follow along. It's whatever. Tyler wins. Congratulations, Tyler. And Tyler does what he has to do, because he is the only person who is not interested in going along with Memphis' plan. This is the worst case scenario for Devon. The only way she goes home is if Tyler wins and keeps the nominations the same, because everyone else each and every one of those other 5 people is motivated to either take Devon off or Kevin would take Kevin off. But it just doesn't go well. Tyler has the power, and Tyler is, like we said, Tyler is nobody's beta. He is not going to go with what Memphis wants to do. He has the power, and it is his call, and his call is that Devon goes home. So, I mean, it's a great move for Tyler.
Yeah, great move. What I do find kind of ironic is this is a guy who was ready to sacrifice his game for Bay Day and now has a hand in all their evictions and could have saved Davon if he really wanted to. And he did. So this is a true color episode, like Nicole's true colors and, Tyler, for however, if you want to buy all the acting, and maybe it's acting, maybe it's real, but he wants to win. And that's very obvious. And that's, I think, now he wants
to win again. Now he does. Maybe he didn't want before. He's having some trouble, I think, in the house, just in general. Yeah. But it seems like he's getting a little bit more back on track now that there's no escape from the jury house. I think now that he can't just go home to Angela, that is he's stuck. So may as well go home with $500,000. Or maybe
might as well, right?
Maybe a little prize money in the next HOH or a veto. You never know. Get something there.
Yeah, maybe some skyrocketing sales.
That's right. There's a cookbook. Those cookbooks aren't going to sell themselves. Seriously, they are not going to sell themselves. Yeah. So we need
have to get the matching pendant too.
You gotta drum up those Instagram sales. So the veto, we know how the veto goes. Tyler wins, holds the nominations the same, looking very bad for Devon. But shortly after this, Christmas kind of has a little bit of a coming out party this week, where she is after her HOH last week, she's really making some big game moves, or at least like we see more about her path to the finish here. She gets into her this final 3 alliance. We talked a little bit about last week in the spoilers, the wise guys. So she's got that going on. But I also want to talk to you about David, this plan that she comes up with to David, who everybody says is on an island all alone, like no one wants to work with him. Christmas steps up to the plate and she wins him over by telling him something he already knows. And she's the only person willing to go to him and say, hey, I know how effed up this is. It wasn't you. I know it wasn't you. It definitely wasn't you. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes to win David over.
It just shows how little game anybody's talking with David. Yeah. But this is another thing. Like, this is like Big Brother 101. If there's somebody on an island, you reel them in. You try to work with them.
Yeah.
Like, it is the most basic thing. Even if you don't believe it, like, get him to believe it, because he's just desperate for anybody. Mm-hmm. What is going on?
Tyler was talking a little bit about it this week. He thinks that David's someone he could work with later on, but everyone's kind of thinking like, okay, this is someone I can work with later on. And no one wants to lay that groundwork now because they're too scared to. And Christmas is at least willing to make that move. Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. But yeah, just be the first one to make the move and everything. But I do understand it just because he screwed over Tyler so bad. So it's like, you work with him, you trust him with anything, it could just completely blow up. So keep kicking the can down the line a little bit. But for Christmas, who, probably isn't long for the house if things, go a certain way, I think it's a smart move for her.
Yeah. One more Christmas moment I want to talk about was at the beginning of the week when we had our have-not drama. Where Devon, coming off of have-nots, coming off of the block the week before, where Christmas put her on the block. Apparently, we had a great. I love everything about the scene. Like, that editing was so fantastic about how Christmas apparently was very convinced that she was not going to be a have-not, because apparently Devon had talked to Kevin about making Kevin a have-not, and Christmas was on the balcony overhearing. And it's like that same, like, she is like, if you remember Survivor, like Nick, where it's like every time last season there was a conversation, like Nick was always kind of there in the background, just looking to see what's going on. And it's like, no matter what's going on, Christmas is there to just kind of give someone the eye. And she is.
It's her own spy bunker.
She was so upset. Like, she was so upset. She could not believe that, like, what, just because I nominated her last week, I have to be a have-not this week?
Yeah, what other reason could somebody possibly need, It was.
What the heck is this?
It just shows like how delusional some people are. Like what, and to like try to play victim on that. It's like, what did I do? I only tried to evict you.
Yeah, that was not good. That was not good. I love that I love that like Devon is like trying to, and just Christmas is so upset. She's just thank you. She is terrible at hiding how upset she is.
Oh yeah, and Day's kind of poking the bear a little bit, which is really awesome.
Yeah, Christmas is a very interesting. Like I think she's a very interesting house guest because she does so many things right, but just her personality is so wrong for making things happen. And it's just like, if she could only get out of her way, she could win this thing. She can go far. She'll go far every time she plays based on who she is, but winning it is going to be so hard until she just stops being Christmas.
Yeah, and it's just so easy to push her buttons that if you want to blow her game up, you just do a couple things, and then she self-sabotages at that point.
Yep, make her a have-not. She'll blow up. Okay. Yeah. So let's. I want to talk a little bit now about move forward here. We talked about last week. I want to talk about this coming week because finally we've got the minority of the House is getting smaller. So this finally means we've got to have the majority alliance taking shots at each other, right?
Of course.
Maybe we'll find out more about that right after this. Oh, Lance, I did a bad thing, Lance. So when I go to commercial break, you're supposed to like give people something to want to come back to. And I just said like, oh, we're going to talk about the future and you're not going to like it. But that's the season of Big Brother, Lance. That's just how
that's also life. Like you start thinking about the future and it's not looking bright,
It's tough. There's not a lot to look forward to right now. But in the Big Brother house, so we had a couple interesting. So before the show went off the air last week, we got Dr. Will.
My man,
the next
Dr. Will, looking like the ghost of Dr. Will.
It was very weird. He does look like he is being supported, like held up by some ancient wizard spell.
There's like somebody's like he's getting like blood processed and like put into him and everything.
Yeah, but
it was a little bit of makeup.
It's a lot of makeup. And,
but I'm not going to complain. Dr. Will has probably been the most entertaining part of this season, and I'm 12 seconds of him.
Thrilled to have him back. Dr. Will is Dr. Will. He is one of the few people that we have ever asked to be on the show, and he said, "You know what? Probably not." He is the only one who will tell us no to our face. I mean, he didn't tell us no, but he was close enough to a no.
I did shoot my shot, which you got to do when you meet him and everything. But yeah, he's like, "Why would you want me? I'm not entertaining," which is really the nicest way of saying hell no.
Yeah. As opposed to all the other people who say yes and then just never show up when it comes time to.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Only a couple, and we're not salty about that at all.
F them.
Yeah, that's right. So our for this particular HOH competition, I guess the twist is that there are prizes to play for. Is this even a twist, Lance, or is this just a thing that happens every year?
It's not a twist. It's definitely a thing that happens. It it reminded me of the Big Brother 7 one when they're in their cemetery and they're doing that and they're winning a bunch of stuff. And Boogie won like a trip and back then like a 42-inch TV was huge for them and everything. So, but I wanted more of this. I wish they did this earlier in the season. I love when they do this. Like, these people are all so selfish.
Yeah.
And only care about themselves. And so. Yeah, we want more of that.
No, that is fun and is definitely up. It is in Dr. Will's wheelhouse. That is definitely a thing that he. But if we're talking about a major twist that's going to shake up the game, that's not this.
That is not what. Twist.
No, that is not what I was thinking. And I mean, it could have gone so many different ways. First of all, I do love the idea that there is a neighbor for the big. That is like the exact kind of Big Brother gimmick that like it's just like perfect for the show. Dr. Will is a neighbor. Of course, it's Dr. Will. It's like just like a setup for the next CBS sitcom, right? A wacky next door neighbor. Yeah, I would too.
I mean, they already have the neighborhood, so I guess the neighborhoods.
Just toss in Dr. Will in there.
Z.
Yeah, in pre-recorded segments only.
Hey, whatever it takes,
yeah.
Right?
That could have been something so much better. Like, I assumed that we were going to get, and we haven't had it yet, like an America Votes component to the game. Like, they haven't called on us at all. And this is going to be the first season in a very long time where that's not the case.
It feels like they're just kind of mailing in this, like all the twists and everything. They did like those 3 powers, but what other twists have they really had? Like, I guess the triple eviction is kind of, I mean,
it's interesting. It is,
but
that is
like,
definitely interesting.
They have been so much more creative, and I don't know if it's because of Corona and everything, but I feel like they could have got really creative, and they haven't. So it's just kind of like, let's just keep this going, especially because the season's been so boring and we've had this majority just power through everything. It's like, throw some wrenches into this. Let's have some fun. And they just refuse to do it pretty much.
Yeah. So in this particular HOH, it sounds like you did have the opportunity to play for power or play for money. And it sounds like it was the kind of thing where you could go back and forth. Like, if you were trying to win the power, wasn't going well, you could switch over. If you were trying to win the money, wasn't going well, you could switch over. And it sounds like Tyler won some money here. Tyler admitted it to Christmas that he got some cash. Apparently 2 people were winners of money. So he is one. Maybe Kevin. I heard some rumors that Kevin might be the other one. It would make sense.
Kevin does that. Oh my God, Kevin, your back's against the wall, and I guess if you think you're not going to win, might as well take the money and run, right? It's
the Jess play from last year, where in that, what was it? I think it was the HOH that Nick won in the early going, where there was a $5,000, like you could aim and try to get that instead. And she went for that because who needs to win power in Big Brother these days?
Especially when you can walk away with, $2,500 after taxes.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. But hey,
I'll take it.
More money than most of these people are going to get, because that's like, Devon got that $5,000 and Christmas got that $5,000, and already they made more money than most of these other people combined. So,
right. Yep.
Hey, good for them.
I wouldn't complain about walking away with, $2,500.
Yeah.
Venmo us.
Yeah. So if there is, I guess there are nine people left, 10 people left in the house, 9. If there is one person left who would lead to the most uninteresting week, the most boring week, the most status quo week, who would it be, Lance? Who would be the most boring choice for HOH?
Honestly, there's so many.
Cody, boring of the boring.
Cody.
That's right. That is your new HOH. Your new HOH is Cody.
It was really hard to pick between Memphis and Cody,
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is true, because Memphis was the outgoing HOH, but Danny did offer to give Memphis her power. Again, like I just use it for yourself that week and make a big move. Give it to Memphis in a week where someone could finally take a shot at your side of the alliance. Like, I'm not a fan. I wasn't a giant fan of that move. I would have just let it expire.
I would have honestly loved maybe not loved, but it would have been funny if Memphis did win and then took out Danny. It's kind of like the Sandra move in Survivor, where she give him the idol and then vote him out. That would have been really, of a boring season, that would have at least been fun.
Yeah. Danny is not in a great position here, and probably does not. She's got to realize that things have not been going well these past couple of weeks. And
she got called old.
She did get called old. That is tough. But she does catch a break here in that Cody is the HOH. And as we know, she is involved with a love triangle, as Kaser explained, between Nicole and Danny. So unlikely that Nicole or Danny face the block here. And you would expect, because it's Cody, without spoiling the nominations, and we will do that, you should expect that Cody would do the most boring thing possible, the most status quo thing possible, and that's nominate Kevin and David. Because he has something going with everybody, so he can't take a shot. He's got to do the boring thing.
And that's that's every freaking week. It's like, we'll just put up these 2 and it'll be easy.
So, that's great. That's great for his game right there. Like, because he is, as long as one of those 2 go home, he's set up well no matter what the next week. But where things might get interesting, and that is indeed what he's going to do. Those are his 2 nominations. It's going to be Kevin and David. And the idea is that Kevin is the person most likely to go home here. Now, the reason why is because Kevin has been very antagonistic with Cody. Kevin's one of the few people that will actually we saw it in that one HOH where Cody took that shot. at putting Cody up early. So he had a talk with Cody. It didn't go well. Kevin explained that everything isn't about you, Cody. Cody did not take that well. Cody does not take any criticism well. Cody only takes. Just gotta flatter him. You gotta flatter a Calafiore. You're not gonna get places by being antagonistic to a Calafiore.
Yeah, you could tell with the zing bot zing where he got called dumb. He's like, oh, it's like I didn't get owned online. I'm not. No. Okay. And so him trying to like be self-deprecating just didn't work, you know?
Yeah. It seemed like most of the people were going along with it. Like he was like, "Oh,
you kind of have
the dumb guy." Oh,
yeah. Because if you're bitter, then you look bad. You know, you got to go with the joke, even though it's a bad joke.
Yeah. So that's your HOH is Cody. So where it could get interesting here is if there is a veto and it does get used, because obviously Cody's got to put someone up on the block. Now, his target's Kevin. He would like to see Kevin go out the door. He is probably the person in the game most motivated to get rid of Kevin. But the alternative plan, if the veto gets used, Kevin is no longer an option. Christmas is the replacement nominee possibility. He's facing some pressure from some of the folks on the guy's side of the alliance to do that. And Christmas, it makes sense for him in that if you think of who he's working with, he's got that final two deal with Enzo, and he's got like a final two with Memphis, and he's got nothing going really with Christmas in the way he's got something going with pretty much everyone else in the house. So Christmas doesn't help his game much. It helps Danny and Nicole's game a little bit to have another woman in the house. So they're going to lose that option too. If this happens, and that would be 3 weeks in a row that Nicole would lose an ally because Cody doesn't want to lose one of his. And they keep having the same conversation week after week. Like Cody and Nicole, they're working together, and it's like, I don't understand why I got to lose 3 people in a row. Like, because you're not playing the game and he is, Nicole. That's what.
Yeah, just keep complaining, you know, and the same things are going to happen. But I do find that interesting. Honestly, if I'm Cody, I'm happy with one of them winning the veto. Take out someone who actually might be a real competitor, because David and Kevin aren't.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I think that if I'm him, I'm like secretly wanting that. And then, you know, it wouldn't be the worst thing if he took out like Danny or Nicole. But, you know, Christmas, I do understand.
Yeah, Christmas is going to win stuff down the line in a way that Nicole probably won't and Danny probably won't. I mean, both of those are Nicole and Danny are both capable of winning HOHs, but Christmas she is a competitor. She is so hardcore out there, and that is a positive thing about her. Like, gotta love that. Like, I would rather see someone do that than do the Jess game where you're losing everything. Yeah. And you hope to get by because no one's gonna put me up because I'm never gonna put you up because I'm never gonna win. I prefer that game. It's a more interesting game. Of course, it's a high risk game because someone's gonna take you out at some point. But this week could be interesting if that happens, but it would be uninteresting in the sense that it's only gonna further along this guy's steamroll, this like Brigade 2.0. It's a season where we're gonna wind up with we have 3 women left in the house, and if we take out Christmas, we're down to 2. We got Danny and Nicole left, and Nicole might go to the final 2 because let's be honest, Nicole ain't winning this thing now. So why would you get rid of her? But Danny, Cody's playing for Danny. Cody doesn't want to take out Danny, but Cody realizes that Danny's going to take herself out. Danny's going to play hard, that like someone's going to take her out for him. So that's not part of his plan. He's a ride or die with Nicole. He's never going to take out one of his final 2s. He's got final 2s everywhere. Like Enzo was just coming to him earlier today to tell Cody that, hey, just so you know, Memphis has got this idea about this wise guys thing. So already Memphis's plan is blown. Like Memphis has got nothing going on. It's really like Enzo is Enzo's in a fantastic position. He is not part of that majority alliance, but like Cody wants him around as long as possible.
Yep. Yeah, it's just, you know, Cody's just kind of like a made man. He doesn't have to do much. He's just made all these easy deals, and he's physical enough that he can win stuff. And no one's even really like bringing him up other than like the the minority part of the house, and they can't win anything. So it's just a cakewalk. Like, I mean, this is what we've been saying. Like, that's what makes the season, so anticlimactic. So.
An inexplicable result. That is not. I would not imagine that we would just be this mastermind Cody Calafiore. Can anyone beat mastermind Cody?
It's not even
brothers
mastermind
just
either.
running the show. No, not really.
Easy. It's just so easy. It's like
Yeah.
basic stuff, and everyone is so bad and going after other people that they don't even realize that like this 4 is just gonna like cakewalk to the end.
Yeah, it's not a brilliant strategic game, but it's a brilliant social game. Like he is just fantastic at the social game part. He is, despite all of his love triangles, and he is in such a great position in the house. And I hope something happens to make things interesting and dislodge him, but I honestly don't know how that works. Like I just don't see anyone left doing that. Like everyone wants to take him. Like maybe at final 3 he might get axed at the end if like you can take Memphis instead, or like if you could take David instead, like maybe. But
what's even like the like fun thing to root for? Like usually when you start getting to the end of the season and like maybe a group of people that you don't like are there's at least one person you're rooting for. Is there a person to even like, oh yeah, if they pull this off, I'm rooting for them? Like there isn't really anybody.
A lot. Some people on the internet are starting to think that way about David, maybe. But that's the thing. Like that's all you got. Like David's as good as it's gonna get. Because
to me, it feels like best case scenario. Like if it's gonna be a good season to me, like an Enzo. I think Tyler winning is really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a good thing, but I think it's really interesting. But I think those two, I would feel somewhat good about. I mean, Cody, if he wins, like deserves it and everything. But like, there isn't anybody I'm like, come on, man, let's do this. Let's make a run. Like, which is not what you want to hear.
Yeah, if Cody wins, it'll probably go down in history as one of those seasons where you talk about when you're thinking about it's like, oh yeah, Cody played a good game. You want to watch it? Not any, no.
Oh no, like, this is like one of the least rewatchable seasons.
Yeah, it's like One World. Like Kim Spradlin won, played a great game. Congratulations. Do you want to watch it again? No, not really. Just played a bunch against a bunch of idiots.
This is
just, not that everyone here is an idiot. They're just playing like it.
And usually, like sometimes we get like back, like on year, off year. This is 2 off years in a row, which is never great.
At least we had Big Brother 20. That's it was yeah.
And at least Survivor was good.
Yeah. We've of the last 4 CBS reality TV seasons, we at least had that one good one in there. And that's gonna that Survivor season's gonna need to last us for a while, Lance. That's gonna need to last us for a while.
Yep.
Okay, so before we go here, I want to talk a little bit. Look forward to the future. Obviously, we don't have any spoilers about it because it hasn't happened yet. But I want to talk about this triple eviction, the first ever Big Brother Triple Eviction. Now, this is something that we've seen on the Canadian version of Big Brother. They do it a little bit differently. It sounds like our version is going to be different from their version. It sounds like when we do it on Thursday, we're going to have a 2-hour show. It sounds like that means it's probably going to be this week's Evictee Goes Home. That's eviction number 1. Then we do a double eviction, as in the standard style, where they play the HOH and then the veto comp. And then by the end of the hour, they're done. And then we've got that second hour. And I think they just play another round where we're going to have 2 HOHs or 3 HOHs crowned on that particular night. Instead of the Canadian version, which is just like 3 people on the block, only 1 person stays. Good luck, everybody. No, that's not good. That's not good. So do you have any thoughts, Lance, about how this triple evict? So we know who is going to win HOH. We know who is HOH this week. We know who his target is. So we know who might be left over. What do you think happens here?
I think either you can just easily squash the minority, depending what happens this week. You easily squash the minority, but that, I don't know, it feels like when you have a double eviction, you want to use it right, or triple eviction, you want to use it right. So I really think you could see a Danny, Nicole real extermination, and it just, we could have pretty much guys left at that point.
Yeah. I think the most likely thing, I think there's a lot of talk and a lot of consideration about the double eviction. A lot of people have plans for that. The triple eviction is going to catch a lot of people off guard. And I think that triple eviction spot is the spot where David is in a lot of trouble, where it's like you don't have a lot of time to consider it. You didn't even think that there would be another shot here to do it. And you just gotta, you don't want to you've got to put him on the block, and maybe you're taking a swing at someone else. But like, I think that's a spot where David's in a lot of trouble. Otherwise, I think you're right. I think it's probably Danny over Nicole, most likely to go home, because I think Cody and I think you can realize that Nicole did enough damage to her game, and that Nicole is probably not going to win the game, that you would want to keep her.
Yeah, and I think Danny has a better shot of winning competitions over Nicole as well.
Yeah. If David is on an island right now, Nicole is on an island now too, because once Danny's gone, she really has nobody but Cody, and that's exactly where Cody wants her to be. It's great to have a final two when your final two has no option but to go with you. Like that's the most comfortable final two to have. So I think Danny is in the most trouble in that, but she could win it. She could win the HOH in that double. And then we could see Tyler Tyler being targeted. And I think she understands how to do it. Like there's like the first shot that she didn't take, at least realize that the only way to get rid of Tyler is if it's Tyler versus Enzo. Because Enzo, despite not being in an alliance, is preferred by Cody. So you just got to do it Cody once. You just got to put up someone that Cody would want to keep more than Tyler.
I do think if we got a Danny or Nicole HOH, that's interesting, at least, because then they can take that shot at some of those bigger guys, So I find that if that actually happens, that is at least interesting. If one of the guys wins and just kind of steamrolls, then.
Well, so Lance, I guess we're going to have to wait until Thursday to figure out how this triple eviction goes. A lot of great scenarios here. If there's one thing we should expect, though, expect it to be boring and expect that it is the people least likely that you would love to see win will win. Because
prepare for the worst. That is the theme of 2020 and probably beyond.
Prepare for the worst. So expect if the theme of Big Brother, expect the unexpected. Just expect the worst.
Expect the worst.
A little bit.
Prepare for the worst.
Better, because it's very seldom you get the unexpected. This Dr. Will twist, very expected.
Yeah. And it's not even a twist.
Not even a twist. No, it's just Dr. Will's there. Anyway, we're going to talk about we're gonna unpack all that Dr. Will madness. Maybe it's something interesting. Maybe there's a real twist we haven't seen yet, and we'll be talking about it with bated breath next week. And so excited, but probably not. We'll hey, tune in next week to find out. Right? Follow us back here. If you want to hear us next week, I would recommend that you subscribe to the Survivor Brothers or in the Big Brother Brothers. You should do both, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Big Brother Brothers, if you want to hear about Big Brother.
Good plug.
Oh, it's been a long day, Lance. It's been a long day.
I wish to a Survivor.
Big Brother Brothers. It's available on all your favorite podcasting apps, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and now Amazon. We're on Amazon as well. And don't forget to look for us on Facebook and YouTube. You can test our video version of the show and see Walter, Lance's dog, every now and then. Good content. And if you really, really, really love what you hear, please leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. 5 stars only, please. Please. So that's it for this week. We'll catch you everybody back here next week, I hope. And we're gonna wrap this thing up. We're almost there. We're almost at the finish line.
Yeah.
We got a 500,000 check all written out to Cody, about ready to hand it over.
See
if anything changes. We'll be back here next week. See you then, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.